Good morning all. My name is Paul Hornby, as you can see, and I'm Head of E-Commerce at Shop Direct. I'm here this morning to talk to you about some of the ways in which we've transformed Shop Direct from a company that historically was a catalogue retailer and now is truly a digital retailer. Now, rather than simply telling you all the things that we've done on our website, the aim of this morning's session is to try and really get under the skin of some of the softer things that we've changed. So that hopefully is some of the stuff you'll be able to take from today. Before we do that, just a little bit of information about who we are. So Shop Direct is one of the leading multi-brand digital retailers across the UK and Ireland, and we trade across 6 main brand fascias, all of which you can see on the screen next to me. We're also relatively large. So we do 1.7 billion a year in sales, and that is all domestic. We have 5 million active customers on our base, and our websites get around 880,000 sessions every single day. The journey to those numbers and where we are today has been a tough one. As an organisation, we have consistently been in transformation for the last 10 years. We were bought, so the Barclay brothers bought the old Gus Home Shopping Group and the old Littlewoods Group in the early 2000s, one from Manchester, one from Liverpool, huge rivals. And that period between 2003 and 2007 was all about survival. Our strategy at that point was without a doubt survival-led. We were merging the companies together, we were trying to manage our costs, we were trying to streamline costs, and basically keep the companies alive. During that period in time, we also decided, which was a real brave decision at the time, to sell all of our bricks and mortar high street stores. So we sold all of those to the Primark Group for about 420 million and really made a decision that we would pursue online aggressively. That then moved us into what we classify as our business-led element of transformation, and that was between 2007 and 2012. The best way to sum up this period would be it was hippo-led. So, the highest paid person was driving projects forward, and we didn't really look at the customer enough. And if somebody had an idea, it would be implemented based upon their idea and not necessarily based upon what our customer needed. Something that probably is familiar to a lot of people in the room. And luckily, we now genuinely feel that we're in a customer-led element of our journey, where we really do have the customer at the heart, and that customer informs our priorities and the decisions that we make. Now, when we were in that business-led element, the way that we would work is summed up in the 3 pictures on the screen. So everything would be waterfall. It would be a waterfall methodology in terms of we'd spend lots and lots of time at the start of the project trying to gather requirements. Now, they would not be customer requirements. They'd be the requirements of people that sat within the Shop Direct office. And we'd spend lots of time understanding what features and functions everybody within the company wanted and needed. Then we'd scope out how we build them. Then we'd build these huge projects over weeks and months and years. And then we'd launch them. We'd never test it. So following on from Andrew's point, we wouldn't understand the impact of that change or the impact of that investment. But more importantly, we wouldn't understand the impact of that change on our customer. When we had these projects, the UX element, that customer experience, that user experience, it would be retrofitted. And it was genuinely like putting lipstick on a pig. So you'd put all your requirements in, the IT guys would build everything that you needed, and then we would try and shoehorn some form of customer experience on top of it. And it was painfully clear that, if we had genuine aspirations of being a world-class retailer, this was not the way to work. In light of that, as a company, but more specifically as an e-commerce department, we knew we needed to change. And we decided to focus on 3 key areas: people, technology, and culture. So if you look at the people one first, back in 2006, we had 10 people in our e-commerce team. So myself and Sam made up roughly 20% of that. At that time, we focused on, we had a small front-end web development team, we had a small digital marketing team, and we had 1, maybe 2 interaction designers, and that was pretty much our e-com team. Fast forward to today, and we have 65 people within that team. Now, it's worth noting that this is separate from our IT team. So within Shop Direct, our e-commerce team sits away from IT. So we have a full team of developers, well, more application level developers, scrum masters, business analysts and testers who sit away from this. We basically identified that if we wanted to change, we needed to change the attitudes that we have within the team, the types of people that we recruit, the skill sets that we have in the team as well. And so we've significantly broadened the scope of our team and aggressively went out there and tried to get people who could change us, change our culture, and change the way we work. We made significant investments in front-end developers. So front-end dev for us now is massive, and the way in which we cut our cake is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Ajax, jQuery, that all sits within our team and not within the IT team. Now, investing in this area has been revolutionary for us because training these guys, they're like our development Navy SEALs now. If we have a problem, we give it to these guys. And it's enabled us to do lots of stuff that previously we would have needed really expensive and hard to acquire IT resource, and we can do it ourselves. So it's made us far more agile and enabled us to change that customer experience far quicker and easier. Similarly, we've invested quite heavily in interaction design and also usability. And that's to create a real culture of user experience and user-centered design so that that can genuinely be at the heart of everything that we do. Now, Sam will talk a little bit more about that in the panel later on, but that's a flavor of how we changed that team. We also knew that if we wanted to be world-class, we needed access to not only world-class technology, but also world-class partners. We moved away from an inbuilt, homegrown e-commerce platform and moved across to Oracle's ATG platform. We're on our second version of that now, and that sits up in Amazon's cloud. We get lots of benefits from that, not only stability, but ATG helps us with our personalization efforts. It's very, very good at holding a customer profile that persists across all devices. So we can personalize a journey on desktop or mobile or tablet, and that will remain consistent as you move from device to device. We also partner with a company called Qubit, who are all ex-Google guys. And we work with these guys over our experimentation program. So they run our A/B and multivariate testing software, but we manage it all in-house. And they also manage data that we pump out to third parties, again, to enable personalization, both off-site and on-site. MyThings, so this is an Israeli company who we work with in terms of retargeting, digital display. That's a significant revenue generator for us now. I think we do about 15 million in sales, maybe more, in fact, each year. In fact, I think I've probably undersold that by about 100 million. And then finally, something like UserZoom. So we use a number of tools that help us get closer to that customer. And again, that's all about accessing the qualitative and the quantitative data so that we can put the customer at the heart of any decision. And then the final thing on this slide is our new UX lab. So we thought about how we could make the customer central to everything that we do and decided that the easiest way was physically to make the customer the center of Shop Direct. And so we spent £100,000 earlier this year and built a UX lab and put it smack bang in the middle of our head office. So this UX lab has a viewing room. It has a room where our customers go. We have eye tracking. We have 5 different cameras so we can look at how the customer is interacting with any device from all different angles. And this enables us to bring in stakeholders and designers and developers and genuinely get under the skin of how customers interact with a proposed product, either before it goes live or a product that we've recently launched to the market. And that's really, really changed because people's opinions don't matter anymore because we can validate people's opinion by putting them directly in front of a customer. And that's been huge. That really has been huge. But getting loads of great people and getting loads of great technology and tools is one thing. Actually using them is another. And so I think the biggest challenge for us was changing that actual culture of having the highest paid person determining what we do. And we've challenged that bit by bit, and we've gone from a stage over in the left where we would use a test maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So from a qualitative perspective, we would see our customers a handful of times a year. And we wouldn't really look at customer data or understand elements of friction within the funnel. We would just decide what we wanted to do and just crack on. Fast forward to where we are now, and user-centered design is genuinely at the heart of what we do. So any change goes through those guys first. It's the customer's requirements that are key. You know, we research what other people do and also research what the customers actually need. And we prototype very, very heavily. So our investment in interaction designers and front-end developers basically enables us to create production-ready prototypes before any of that expensive IT resource have written a single line of code. And that's huge because we can put these prototypes in front of customers and genuinely get a feel for how they're going to interact with the tool before it goes live, and then iterate that and be very, very confident that the product that finally ships is going to be pretty seamless, and have real confidence that it will deliver incremental sales for us. That last part, the incremental sales part, is now measured. So following on from Andrew's point before, testing is just critical for us now. And one of the largest changes has been our investment in experimentation. We simply do not allow things to happen anymore unless they are tested. It's crazy. You think about it, in essence, you're changing your customer experience without understanding the impact it's had on the customer, which in a customer-centric manner is just fundamentally flawed. Our experimentation is all hypothesis-driven, so we understand the qualitative and quantitative data again, and also come up with a hypothesis of why we think a specific change is going to positively impact either our customer or a KPI, or ideally both. And we do this for personalization initiatives. So again, following on from Andrew's point earlier, we don't just personalize for the sake of it. We look at our journey, we identify where customers think, or where we feel customers' experience will be enriched by personalizing it, and then we record it as well. And that helps us get the balance right between personalizing for the sake of it and being a bit creepy, or doing something that genuinely enhances the experience of the customer. We run these via simple A/B tests, ABN tests, multivariate tests, and typically we see that a third are inconclusive, pretty flat, a third fail, and a third yield some positive results. Now, one of the cultural changes has been to not shy away from that third that fail, and genuinely have a culture of fail fast. So encourage ideas, encourage people within the department, not only that highest paid person, but anybody within Shop Direct, to go and understand how the customer uses the website and come up with ideas of how we could improve it. You know, we run them through that user-centered design mill, we test them, and if they fail fast and we pull them out. We learn from that, and then we move on. And this really has been huge for us, and is something that we're planning to continue to grow. At the moment, we have around 35 challenges going live every month, which is a significant increase. I think 2 years ago we had about 4. So we really have managed to ramp up that experimentation stream. And the one way we have done that is by bringing it in-house. So previously we worked with a third-party vendor, and they would manage all of our test development. And we found that our demand just outstripped how much they could supply. So we decided to partner with Qubit. We use their software as a licensed software, and we invested quite heavily in our people and enabled them to build our tests. So now everything we do ourselves, and we're in charge of our own destiny, which is enabling us to really roll this out and expand it at scale. By November of this year, we're hoping to get, what's the number on the board? 100, I think, is it? No, 50. 50, I can't see on that board. We're hoping to get about 50 challenges a month live by November this year. Now, at that point, we'll be launching more challenges in a month than a lot of our competitors will be launching in a calendar year, which again shows that we're growing, but also shows that this potentially hasn't been adopted as well as it should. And by July 2016, that's when we're aiming to get what we classify as experimentation at scale, which is 140 tests, or 140 challenges, sorry, in a calendar month. And at that point, a customer will be exposed to more challenges in one session than they will be in an entire calendar year in some of our competitors. But this this creates money for us as well. This work stream alone will probably generate us in the region of 18 million in incremental demand in this calendar, or this financial year alone. And that's purely by understanding the customer, understanding the funnel, and removing friction. I'm now going to give you a few examples of some of the higher profile pieces of experimentation that we've run, some personalized, some for all of our customer base. The first one was persuasive messaging. So our hypothesis here was, we see customers going to product page and are uncertain. Do they want to buy it right now? They haven't got that element of being able to ask a friend what they think. And so we decided if we could utilize our review data, utilize aggregated views and purchase data, we could add elements of persuasive messaging over that product image to reassure customers that they're looking at an item that a lot of other people have either looked at or bought. And we had to test this because, again, going back to if we would have still been in the hippo world, there were people within Shop Direct who said, that won't work because I don't want to know that 14 other people have just bought that same dress yesterday. That would put me off. So we tested it. We let the science decide. This was tested across our very.co.uk website and littlewoods.com, which are our two biggest sites. And it was tested on desktop, tablet, and mobile. This was our most consistently successful test. Sometimes we see fluctuations in how tests perform on desktop and mobile, but across the board, this increased conversion by 2%, which for a site that does 1.7 billion a year, when you extrapolate those benefits out, that was a sizable win for us for a very small element of investment. Another one was gallery page layout. Now this again was based upon qualitative data, and we've been looking at journey paths. So how were customers moving through our site, and where did we see elements of friction which we needed to smooth out? We identified a pattern which internally we referred to as GP, 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 which was gallery page, product page, back to gallery page, product page again, back to gallery page. And it was clear that customers were browsing through the gallery page and couldn't find enough information about that product from that page. Maybe the image wasn't big enough, or they couldn't get enough product copy. And so they were clicking through to the product page only to then go back. We had a simple hypothesis that if rather than having 4 images in a row, we had 3 in a row and made the images bigger, customers would be able to see the product more, and that would engage them, and they'd have to go to product page less. Now, this A/B test, again, we ran on Very. It was full significance. So again, we manage and monitor the level of confidence in the results. I think this was 99%. And we've seen a 1.1% lift in conversion with 6% less product views. So that's where you have to understand your KPIs and what you're trying to achieve. But again, this was getting under the skin of that customer journey, creating a hypothesis, and then putting it out there and seeing some results. Now, it doesn't always work. It doesn't always work. And this is one of our personalization initiatives that we tried and failed, and we thought it would be pertinent to share with you guys today. We identified customers exiting at a rate higher than we were happy with from certain elements of the journey. And we decided to try and fix that. When a customer tried to leave the site, either go to the address bar or go to the X in the browser window, we looked at what type of customer they were. Were they an existing customer? Were they a new customer? And we served them a pop-up to try and incentivize them to stay. So non-customers got our standard first customer offer, and existing customers got an extra incentive to stay with us and come in and purchase, because, as Andrew said before, we genuinely believe in the value of maintaining our existing base. This just failed across the board. On average, 1% decrease in conversion across both customer segments. So this was a prime example of fail fast. We had this live for a few days, definitely cost us money, but because we monitored it, didn't cost us that much. We probably had it pulled out within 2 days. And now we go back and we learn from that, and we try and get into the psyche of the customer and understand why that happened and how we can hopefully make it better next time. The final one is probably my favorite one. So this was born out of our UX lab. And to set the scene, we had a customer. In fact, we had a number of existing customers in our lab, and all they were doing was going through our end-to-end journey, purchasing items that we'd asked them to purchase, and we were observing the behaviour and any elements that they tripped up on, and our aim was then to try and create hypotheses around how we could improve that. This wasn't part of the aim of the day, but we noticed a number of customers trying to add an item to basket without selecting the SKU options, so size or colour or any other SKU option. When they did this, they seen the red error message that's in the left-hand side image. But a lot of time, it threw the customer, because the thing that we sometimes forget is that customers don't make mistakes on purpose. So when we were telling them that they'd made a mistake and asking them to fix it, they didn't really know what they'd done wrong in the first place. So asking them to then go and rectify that didn't work very well. And a number of our customers got frustrated and said, well, I'd just give up. Sam's UX guys took that as a challenge and thought, how can we turn this on its head? So we've seen it from the customer. How can we create an experience that works better? So they went away, they come up with ideas, off-the-wall ideas, on-the-wall ideas, low-fidelity prototypes, high-fidelity prototypes that built by my guys. And we then did another round of user testing with the execution on the right. So if a customer tries to add something to basket and they've forgotten about a particular SKU item, rather than chastising them and telling them that they've done it wrong, we just politely ask them to fill in the right stuff. Everybody nailed it in the user testing, so we were quite excited, and then roll it out as an A/B test. Now, we've seen a 0.6% lift in conversion across all of our product pages purely from putting this in. Now, when we extrapolate those benefits over 12 months, that pays for our UX lab probably about 10 times over. But it simply wouldn't have been found if we didn't put the customer at the heart of what we do and spend time, effort, and cash to get under the skin of what causes them pain. And that for me is the prime example of how we've changed as a company. Because in the past, we would have done huge, huge projects that take months and months and hundreds and thousands of pounds of development and potentially yield something that we can't measure, to now doing very, very small projects that in a measured way significantly improve not only our financial KPIs but also that customer experience. So in summary, what have we done? We've completely changed the way in which we work. And I suppose the simple thing I would say is, if any of you in the audience want to change the way in which you operate or change the results that you see, just change the way that you work. I know it sounds really simple, but we just had to man up and just decide that we needed to change. If we carried on doing everything in the same way, we'd get the same results. So we made a decision to completely change our approach, our philosophy, and luckily it's starting to bear fruit, but we're certainly not finished yet. We've also heavily invested in people. We've realized that we're only as good as the people that we have. We try and surround ourselves with the best people that we can get on a daily basis and empower them. So Sam and I are the two people who lead our departments, and our job is to surround ourselves with great people and make sure they can do great things and not get in their way. And if we manage to do that, then we've won. But we've invested in training and invested in these people, and it's definitely bearing fruit. But identify the areas that you need, invest in them, create a great environment for them, take the shackles off them, and you'll be continually amazed at what these people do. And the final thing is this experimentation part. So really, really backing up exactly what Andrew said before. Testing is key. There's money to be made, so from a commercial perspective, it's crazy not to. But from a simple customer experience perspective, you've got to understand the impact of the change that you make. And that's been one of the big, big changes for us. But it's also changed how we approach things. So, like I said earlier, it would be crazy for us to embark on an 8-month project now. That should be 16 2-week sprints that deliver lots of more digestible chunks of code or product that we can test and understand the impact of, and then get to that end game. So that's what we've done at Shop Direct, and I'd like to open up for any questions.
I think by the sounds of it, the biggest challenge is actually not the technology or the knowing what to do, it's actually culture.
100%. 100%, because in essence, you're taking power away from the people who used to make the decisions, and in the example of some of the guys in our team, you're putting it in the hands of 21-year-old graduates, and you've got to get people to buy into that. And we call it hill climbing as a culture, in terms of, rather than telling somebody what you want them to do, go and build that piece of code, you give them a challenge. We want to reduce exit rate from signing by 1%. As a team, go away and tell me how you think that should be achieved, and then we'll test it. So, but getting people to buy into that culture of not spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on huge projects and doing small, digestible, incremental pieces of work takes some doing, but luckily we're getting there, but not the final product yet.
And being able to accept when you've got it wrong as well.
Yeah, that's the big one, because nobody wants to go and stand in front of the board and tell them that something didn't work, but we've really tried to hammer home this fail fast and encourage failure and learn from failure, and a lot of things that sound really corny, but if you can get people to buy into that, then it chills people out, I suppose, and encourages them to be a bit braver and come up with more wacky ideas.
Do we have any questions for Paul before we go for coffee? Yes, please. If you could, we've got some roving microphones.
Hi, Craig Elwell from Express Gifts. Quick question, on the exit offer that you tested, you said that it had a negative effect on conversion, but from a logical point of view, you think it'd have no effect or an uplift because you're giving somebody an offer to convert. Did you get any insight from your user experience lab on why it had a negative effect?
It just annoyed customers. It literally just annoyed them because at some point, the customer may not have actually been going to exit. They may have been going to a browser tab to open a new tab and do something else, and that JavaScript maybe has been slightly overzealous and has captured that and said, this guy's trying to leave, I need to try and entice him to stay. Now that would really annoy me if I had no intention of leaving. And so what was happening was we were making people leave who didn't actually plan on leaving, which is where the negative was. And again, we could track that because it was a 50-50 split. And so we had a pure segment that we could monitor. And that's literally it. We just frustrated customers and they told us that with defeat and just went somewhere else. Yeah.
Richard, Andrew, at the front.
If there's no other questions, I'm Andrew Starkey from IMRG Logistics. I noticed on your screens you were showing delivery options, and we get very anarchy in logistics, and we'll be doing it this afternoon, talking about how delivery drives loyalty, and if you get it wrong, you can drive cart abandonment. Just wondered how you work with other functions, like the logistics guys, Chris Hayton at your place, to work through the UX lab and look at those kind of experiences, those kind of elements.
Yeah, one of our main focuses for the next year is to really grow our level of experimentation within the checkout funnel. So that's been one of the areas that we haven't focused as much on. We've focused an awful lot further upstream where the session volume is higher. But you're absolutely spot on. One of our key aims is to understand how we can slicken up account application and sign up, but also the whole delivery options piece. I mean, we offer one-man delivery services, two-man delivery for large sofas, Collect Plus.
I mean, the reason I mentioned it, we got the session this afternoon, we've got another survey which we're highlighting this afternoon, but we're seeing increasingly consumers checking delivery options before they even start browsing.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got delivery options on your browsing pages, don't wait till checkout. Yeah. You've lost them already. So interested to see how that develops.
Yeah, I mean, we had an interesting one with delivery options earlier this year where we, as part of a project, we moved its position in the journey and changing that position, and so changing when a customer could see the finalized delivery and stock option had a genuine impact on conversion. So whereas people just don't think it matters, it's fundamentally key. When we moved it in one direction, it went up, but that was because it had gone down, because we'd originally moved it in the other direction, which was a fail fast. Same thing. So yeah, but you're absolutely spot on.
Any further questions for Paul before we break for coffee? Yes, please.
Hi, I was just wondering how much of your online strategy is still linked in with your offline strategy? Because what we're finding is still offline very much drives the online, and it's sort of still starting with the sort of catalogue side, which is then sort of pushed online, and we're still seeing very hefty peaks from offline activity.
I mean, we're 86% online now at the last count, so we are an online organisation that occasionally sends some catalogues out, but there are still processes that are inevitably rooted within the paper world. So our product setup, for example, we don't have as much structured product data as I would like, because when you put in copy in a piece of paper, it doesn't need metadata. And also some of the assets that we create are still more tailored to paper, but we are in the process of changing them. But, you know, Gus, Great Universal's been around since something like 1915, so, you know, we're trying to change 100 years of process. As an e-com team, we just don't engage with paper. You know, we've been creating digital books and digital magazines, but there's still elements of the company there, but within a few years, everything within Shop Direct will, without a shadow of a doubt, be digital first.
It's quite a turnaround. It's easy for you to say it so quickly, but actually when you think about, as you say, the history, where you've come from as an organisation, not only have you got the cultural issue of changing how people look at projects, you've actually got the cultural challenge of changing the whole business proposition as well along the way.
Yeah.
And you've done that since 2006.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Time for one final question for Paul. No, in which case, Paul, I will say thank you very much for your time. Great presentation. Thank you.